Hello, in this video I will show you how you can modify a Databricks table using a Databricks app. If you haven't seen it already, please check out my first video in this series about how to read a Databricks table into a Databricks app. First things first, what you need is obviously an app, and I already have one created because it does take a few minutes to initialize. I also have a video about the basics of Databricks apps, so be sure to check that out as well. But basically all you have to do to create an app is go to Compute, and then go to Apps, and then go to Create App. And then if I go down here, this is what I did. I clicked Streamlit Hello World app because the app that I will be showing you today is in Streamlit. And then you can give it a name and click Install. Since I already have mine, I'm not going to do that. I named my app Read Write Data. So after you have your app created, the next thing you will need to do is give your app permission to use a SQL warehouse, because the SQL warehouse is the compute that will be used to write the statements that will make updates and changes to your Databricks table from the app. So what I do is I go into Edit and Next Configure. From there, I can add a resource, choose SQL Warehouse. You can see I've already done it, but I chose Serverless Starter Warehouse since that's the only SQL Warehouse I have access to in this account. And then you would hit Save. I'm just going to hit back since I've already done that. The next step you need to do is you need to give your app permission to read and modify the table. Think of it like a user or a group. Just like a user or a group, you can assign permissions and give access to objects within Databricks. So if we go into our table, this is the table that we will be modifying from our app. It's called Demo Product Texts. It's a very basic table that has information about shoe products. See, it has an ID, a name, and text. So from the table, I go to permissions, and I've already granted it, but what I did is I clicked on grant, and then I have to find the service principal that's associated with the app and give that service principal the permissions necessary. So the service principal is usually going to be named the same as your app with a little bit of extra stuff. So I select that, and then I do modify and select. And then I click confirm, and there you go. Now your app has the permissions to select and read from this table and to modify this table. All right, let's jump into the code. So if I go back into my app and I click on that link right there, it'll take me to my source code. And I'm going to open up the app.py file. Okay, and I'm just going to briefly walk through this code. We're not going to dive deep into the technicalities behind it, but I'm just going to kind of introduce it to you. And I have shared a link in the description to my GitHub, which has the source code from this app.py file. So if you want to, you can just copy and paste it directly into your app. So you can see that I've imported some libraries. I've established a config instance, and the first thing I want to draw attention to is this get connection function, which essentially establishes a connection with that SQL warehouse. It does that by using this HTTP path that comes from the SQL warehouse. If I go into the SQL warehouse, starter warehouse, and then connection details, you can see the path comes from here. And so I copied and pasted that, and I put it back into my app.py, and then that's used as an argument when I invoke the get connection function. And that creates this connection variable, which I then use in this next function called read table. Essentially, that connection variable can use a method called cursor, which allows you to execute SQL. So I'm just selecting everything from that table. And down here is where I actually use that function. I pass in my table name and that connection object. So once you call this read table function, it leaves you with a data frame. And that data frame can be passed into Streamlit methods for displaying and showing that data within Streamlit. And that's what I do down here. I'm just simply displaying the data. And that, if I go to the app, is this first tab. The second tab is more or less the same thing, but this is where you can not only display the data, but you can make edits. So if I go back into app.py and scroll down even more, this is my second tab. And what I did is I passed that data frame into a Streamlit method called data editor. And that, like I said, displays the data, but also allows you to edit it. So if I click into this column and make a change, and then click out, you can see that I've changed it in this visual, but I haven't yet changed it in the underlying data table. In order to do that, I click this Save Changes button, and it will say that it's saving the changes, and then it will give an output once the changes are finished being saved. You can see here we just did one change, but you can do multiple at the same time. What that looks like in the code is you have this button right here, and then the action of that button, this is all Streamlit again, is that it runs this code. It figures out everything that was changed and creates a set clause, string, and then it just does a very basic update statement, update SQL statement, using that set clause. And then once it's complete, it tells you how many changes were made and that they're successful. So let's go double check that in the Databricks table itself. Are my changes being reflected? Go back to the table. I go to sample data, and then there you go. Test high performance basketball shoes. So if I go back for one more test, I'm just going to change it back. There we go. Now I'll make the changes, and I will hit save. And then I will go back and refresh, and we should see that the table is back to the way it originally was. And there you have it. The table was saved again back to its original state. So what I've shown you is a very basic example of how you can get an app up and running that both reads data and modifies data in your Databricks environment. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And also be sure to check out the other related videos that are linked in the notes below. Thank you.